All right, welcome, welcome. So today we are going to do, I hope you all are enjoying the Digital Fundraising Summit. For those of you who feel like tweeting while we go, feel free to tweet and use the conference hashtag, which is DFS for Digital Fundraising Summit 4. Invite you to do that. Again, if you haven't already, please feel free to chat in your name, your pronouns, if you feel comfortable sharing them, and what organization you're with, just so folks can get a chance to get to know you. And even further, if you would like, I would invite you to rename yourself. You'll see the way I've named myself, Farra, Big Duck, She, Her. I'll give you a slightly more formal introduction in just a moment, but that will just help, again, folks know who's here. So you can click on the top right of your little face box, and there should be some 3 dots. You can click rename and feel free to do that if you'd like to play along. So again, just first name, org, and your pronouns if you feel comfortable sharing, please consider doing that. All right. So also, I just want to mention that I have turned on the automatic live captioning. So that means the robots are transcribing. They may or may not get certain words right. If you would like to see the transcription, you should be able to hit show subtitles. If you don't want to see them, you can also hit hide subtitles. So that transcription is available if you're interested. All right, now here we go. I'm Farra. Nice to meet you all. I use she, her pronouns. I am partner and chief growth officer at a company called Big Duck. Big Duck is a communications firm that works exclusively with nonprofit organizations. And if you are on Twitter, I am at Farra, happy to connect there. Also, Big Duck is the Big Duck handle, so feel free to connect with us there. You can also find me on most of the social networks, and I'm always happy to build my own network and community, so please feel free to reach out and friend me wherever you would like. All right, so as I mentioned, Big Duck works exclusively with nonprofits. We really focus on how you can use communications to achieve your mission and build relationships with the audiences that really need to know and connect with what you're about. You can learn about us at bigduck.com. All right, so what we're mostly going to do, we've got a limited time together. If anyone is eating lunch right now or breakfast, depending on, or maybe dinner, I don't know what time zones folks are in, feel free to eat. I don't mind at all. Feel free to keep your cameras on. It's always nice for me to see you, but if you'd like to keep your cameras off, that's also totally fine. Do what works for you. And I would encourage you to feel free to use the chat if there are things I'm saying and you want to share resources with one another as well. So before we get into an online audit, I just want to sort of share with you how I think about this, which is really who are our donors, and why does it matter on how we communicate with them, in case that is a question you're thinking about. So a few years ago, the folks at Bloomerang Tech kind of summarized what a lot of what folks were seeing about why do donors stop giving to an organization. And this is kind of an information visualization that they put together. And while it is not technically, adding up all the reasons equals more than half, though people might have cited only one of those reasons, but I think it makes the point that a lot of why a donor may stop giving to an organization are things that we actually can control. Now, we can't control if a donor passes away, if they are no longer able to financially support you, if they think that another organization is more deserving, that happens. However, when a donor doesn't think you need them anymore, they have no idea how you use their money, they never heard back from you, so they don't even remember supporting you, they never got thanked, they asked you to change something, maybe they asked you to change their name or their pronouns or their address or the frequency with which you communicate, and your organization didn't respond to that or do that, to me, that is actually something we can change with better communications. And that's one of the, when Big Duck as a communications firm thinks about fundraising, we think about it through that lens of communications and relationship building. So when we think about communications, we wrote an ebook about capital campaign or major donor communications and put forward these 3 principles, but I honestly think they can apply to all levels of fundraising and donor communications, which is that your communications really should inspire, inform, and reassure your donors. And that's about bringing donors in, making them feel excited about what you're doing, letting them know what you're doing and speaking clearly and consistently throughout your materials, and making sure they understand where their money was spent. I want to also acknowledge that in the world of considering your donors, we need to consider other audiences as well. And we are big fans and followers of the community-centric fundraising movement, and happy to talk about that in the time we have together as well. I will also, this recording will be circulated through CauseVox, but if anyone wants a copy of these slides, I'll share my email. You can always reach out to me for that. But as we're thinking about our donors and we're thinking about our audiences, it's important to prioritize them. And this is one, there's lots of frameworks for thinking about our audiences. The founder of Big Duck, Sarah Durham, wrote a book last year called The Nonprofit Communications Engine. You can grab, get info about that book at bigduck.com/engine. But in that book, she sort of came up with a very simple way of thinking about your audiences, which are who are the people we must engage with, who should we engage with, and who could we engage with. And I think a lot of times the who could we engage with really could be every single person, but no one has the time or the human resources for that. So I think when we're thinking about what do our online communications say about us, we're often having the headspace of the people we must and should build relationships with. So again, I want to just give you sort of some quick overview and then talk about doing an online audit and have some time for question and conversations. So I just want to do a quick poll. I'm going to launch in just a minute. I'm just curious, when it comes to communications channels, which channel do you think, if you had to pick one, is your best place for reaching your donors, whatever donors you have in mind as you're thinking about this conversation? So I'm going to put out a poll and you should be able to answer that in just a minute. So I see some of you chatting in, but I'm actually going to put a poll up that you should be able to vote on. So try to vote there. That'd be great if you could do that. Thanks for those who chatted in too. So just pick the one that's best. It doesn't have to be every, it's okay if there's more than one. But if you had to pick one, what would it be? So I'm going to give it 10 more seconds, wait for a few more of you to vote. Just pick one. There is a not sure or something else answer too. All right, I am going to end this poll and share the results. So I think it's just interesting to see here. Email far and away is the one that the most of you selected. It's interesting to me to see tied for second, Facebook and the mail. And I think that also depends on kind of the, I'm guessing those of you who picked mail may have an older donor database. But you can certainly chat in. And, I'm also interested to see website as kind of only one of you selected that. I think website is a place that has, website is older among online communications channels, been around since the 90s, but I think is a place a lot of donors go to for information. But I do think in terms of reaching and having ongoing communications, email continues to be a really strong place for that. But we're gonna talk about a little bit about all of these channels in just a moment. But yeah, anyone feel free to chat in if you have about mail and Facebook are runners up. Hannah shared. Those of you who selected mail, again, my assumption is because you have an older donor database, but if that is not the case and there's a different reason why mail is the #1 channel for you, feel free to chat that in. And if anyone has anything they want to share about why email is prime for them. And the one person who said not sure or something else, if your answer was something else, would love to know what that is. So again, feel free to chat in as we go. All right, well, thank you all for voting. Okay, so I want to, now, like, as we're thinking about, just broadly about our donors and communicating with them, what I want to do is now talk about this idea of an online audit. So I like to do this exercise with an organization I'm getting to know. And I think this is a simple exercise that you could do with your organizations after this call, if you, and modify it to what makes sense to you, given your donors and the communications platforms you use. But I think the reason why I sort of suggest this exercise is so many times we get caught up in the day-to-day of what we do that we forget that someone, I'm just going to ask you to please put yourselves on mute. Somebody who's joined us is not on mute and we're hearing backgrounds. So, I think a lot of times we get caught up in what we do and we forget some of the things we've set in place. What's there? So for example, I have made a gift to an organization and got a thank you note. In that thank you note, have gotten an email from someone who no longer works at the organization. And I think when I then reply and get it out of office that, or like, hey, thanks for replying, this person no longer works here, that communicates to me that someone's not paying attention. And as a donor or as just a potential donor, I might lose trust in you, or your reputation might be impacted. Or if I go to your website and I go to the what's new page or what's coming page, and it's information from 2019, again, that sends out a certain impression. And so I think in a world where people are being, bombarded and overwhelmed in the number of places that we're communicating with and where they're hearing from us, I think thinking about, what are we saying on these communications channels, and this idea of an online audit, again, you can do for your organization. You can also do it for the groups that are similar to yours, that are your peers and partners that your donors may also be giving to, just to get a flavor of what that experience is like. So these are some of the questions that I think at the highest level, a potential donor or current donor, but again, I'm thinking kind of mostly as your potential donors, maybe asking, right? When they land on your website, they see you come up on one of their social media feeds. They may be asking things like, actually, do I understand what you're up to? Do I get what you're about? How easy is it for me to actually sign up for your list if I wanted to? I've gone to organizations' websites where I literally have spent 5 minutes trying to figure out how to get on their email list, and I can't figure out how to do that. And as many of you said, email can be the #1 communications channel. Why is it a scavenger hunt to sign up to your email? How easy is it for me to actually donate to you or support something you're doing? Is that donation process 10 screens? Can I do it from my phone? Right? Can I, what are the options for how I can give? Is it clear why I should give when I go to your donation page? Is it 10 paragraphs and I'm going to lose interest after the first scroll because I'm looking at it on my phone? Or is it really simple and clear why you need my support? Do I understand after I give or while I'm giving what you're actually going to do with my donation? Do you say thank you? Right? What are the formats you say thank you? How quickly do you say thank you? Do I hear from you later? Do you personalize that thank you in any way? There's a nonprofit out there I know that a donor makes a $1 gift in any place, they get a handwritten postcard back. Anything $1 plus. Now that takes a lot of time, and the way they can support that, but that then stands out when I get that postcard, because we don't get as much in the mail these days. I guess depending on who we are. Who do I contact? If I have questions about my gift, is there actually a name of someone that I can find that feels personal and available? If I am looking for you on social media, can I find you? Or is it really, again, a scavenger hunt? And when I find you on social media, can I actually give to you through that, whether that's directly through something like Facebook? And I know Hannah just talked about birthday fundraisers, or even through a link on something that you're sharing and talking about on one of the social channels. So these are just, to me, these are like kind of 101 that a potential donor may be thinking about when they come to experience you online, and the kind of things that I think are important just to take a step back every now and then and have next to you and look at your online presence. And again, those of you who mentioned that mail is a primary form for giving to you, look at how you're communicating in print, and you could probably modify, I think, these questions in a similar way. But I imagine those of you who've said mail, if we were to do this poll in another few years, you're going to be seeing your donors, if you're not already, shifting to a younger donor base. Even donors who are older are going online and looking. So even if mail may be your primary source for individual support, more and more people are going to the web, even if they're not making their gift through there, to learn more about you. So yeah, so that is it. That's the, we only have a half hour left together. I don't know if anyone else is a fan of Mandalorian and Baby Yoda or Grogu, depending on where you are in the series. But I want to just put a request out there to see if anybody would like to volunteer. I did get an email from someone who has offered to volunteer. And if you're still interested in volunteering, chat me again, because I want to make sure you're still interested. What that means is, so Allie, are you still interested? Yes. Okay. So Allie was the first one who chatted me. So we're going to go with Allie. And basically what we're going to do is together, we're going to go to Allie's website. We're going to ask some of these questions. We're also going to look at some places on social, and I'll show you what I mean by conducting an online audit. So first of all, thank you, Allie, for volunteering. Allie, I think you sent me your link. I'm just going to pull that up. And Allie, before I do that, do you want to unmute and come on screen? I'm going to stop sharing for a second and share a little bit about your organization, just like a brief kind of 1-minute overview. This is who we are. This is what we do, just so we all can wrap our minds around it.
So, sorry,
I'm not hearing you. You look unmuted, but I'm not hearing your audio. I don't know if anyone else is.
Can you hear me now?
Can. Yes, now I can. Thank you.
Okay, good. Sorry. So Wisconsin Equal Justice Fund, or WEJF, is we raise funds for 3 providers of civil legal aid to poor people in Wisconsin. So rather than those 3 organizations fundraise for themselves, we fundraise for them in aggregate.
Great. So I'm just going to pull up your website, and can you tell us briefly a little bit about who your donors are, like what you know about your donors? What are they motivated by?
Sure. So most of our donors are law firms and lawyers, and they tend to be older. When I came on, I was the first new executive director in March of this year in 20 years. And when I came on, there was tons of donors that were deceased. So I cleaned up our database, and it's just a really older bunch.
Great. Okay. And which channel did you say is the most popular, or the way that you're connecting with donors?
Direct mail, for sure.
Direct mail. So, okay. And before we pull up your website, do you remember the last time you all updated that?
My predecessor tells me it was about 5 years ago. Okay.
And 5 years ago, it's sort of like dog years, could be 35 years in the world of the web, but let's take a look. Okay. So I am a potential donor. I have landed on your website, right? This is your website. And so I'm going to, just for folks, I'm going to share some quick things that I'm seeing, and then I'm going to invite you to chat in if there are things that you are seeing. So the first thing again, I want to do is kind of like, what's my vibe about what this organization's about? And I see you've got this, justice going on for all these different audiences. It's interesting from a technology perspective. I'm wondering a little bit about what you're using here and how well that translates in things like accessibility. That's just a side note question that we could come back to. But again, so justice doesn't have a price tag, but it does. And again, seeing that you're working with folks who are low income in Wisconsin. So my first question is, all right, so now I'm getting a gist of what you're about. I don't necessarily see what you're up to, right? This is like this website. And again, I'm saying all this with love, and thank Allie again for volunteering. This feels a bit like what we call a brochureware website. This is very much like the way we used to see a lot of websites when the first kind of 5 to 10 years, like 95 to 05, very much like this is about us take what we know in a trifold brochure and stick it on the web, and we have a website. This is very much feels very static, right? I don't know what you're up to now. I'm not really, it doesn't feel current. This website could have been done yesterday, 6 years ago, I don't know. And so one thing to think about is how do we incorporate some of the new things we're doing, would just be a question. So the next question I have is, how do I get on this organization's email list? I would go to news, right? Okay, and I see under news, e-newsletter. Okay, so let's check that out. Now I'm gonna expect that this is, okay, so here I can join the e-news list. And I can expect to receive 1 or 2 emails per month. That's nice that you're telling me frequency, what's happening. Now, interestingly enough, this little image in the corner looks like a printed newsletter, which leads me to wonder if I'm going to get a PDF by mail in my email, as opposed to what is traditionally an email newsletter format. But that's just something I'm wondering about. I'm going to join this email list. So the beauty of volunteering is that now I will get on all of your lists. Let's see. I'm going to join your list, and we're going to go in my inbox and see what happens. So I got to thank you for subscribing. So again, yes, check. You have made it easy for me to sign up for your email list. You've told me a little gist of what I'm going to get, but I'd love to see, like, here's our most recent newsletter. Here's a link to the past 3 issues, right? It would be interesting to know, like, give me, like, subscribe. What am I going to get from, give me a little more of a flavor. I do, like you say, this is a great way to keep you updated on how you can, learn about what we're doing for equal justice for thousands of Wisconsin citizens. But again, show me an example of a recent one. Now I'm going to quickly, and let's hope nothing exciting comes through on my inbox. We're going to go to my inbox here, and we're going to see if I got a thank you here. So I'm not seeing anything here after joining your list. Now it's possible you went to my promo tab. The joy of the promo tab for many of us who have too many emails, though it makes it hard for organizations to follow up. So I'm not seeing an immediate, like, thanks for signing up for our email list. It's possible one comes and it gets delayed, but that would be a question, right? That'd be something I'd wonder about, because again, I'm not going to remember I subscribed to you. And it's always, even if it's the automatic, thanks for subscribing. And by the way, here's our most recent issue, right? Or here's some really popular articles. And again, as I'm going, I know a lot of you are chatting in other resources for doing online checks and volunteering your organizations. We'll see how many we can do. But if you have other advice, as I'm going through this for Ali, please share that. So the next thing I want to do is, let's say for some reason I'm very compelled, I want to make a gift to you. All right, so let's see if I connect online donation form. Let's just assume I'm going right there. All right, so it does look like it's secure, right? I see this little security lock here. That's good. I want to see that if I'm giving online. Then it looks like, this form here, again, I would be curious about how this is working, the way it's embedded and how that works across different screen readers. But let's see if I can make a $5 donation. I know I'm a big spender here, for the sake of getting my information together. Typo my last name. We're going to fix that. I'm going to put my Big Duck. Okay. So gonna make a gift. Hold on a second. All right. Joining your email list says 5. Now payment credit type, it only gives me the option to give by credit card, right? One thing that I think many organizations have benefited from is giving multiple ways for folks to give. PayPal at the very least, because that's, especially if I'm going on my phone, I may not have my credit card stored or handy, but I have my PayPal. Some organizations are experimenting with cryptocurrency. That's a whole other conversation. But again, thinking about multiple ways for folks to give. But at the very least, we've got credit card. Great. Let's see what happens. So I've hit submit. And okay. Now this is interesting. Pay by card or wallet. Okay, so this is interesting. You do have multiple ways people can give. So let's see what happens if I do my Google Wallet. So this delay thing, okay, but it's happening. Okay. Now, okay, it's still asking for a credit card. So we're gonna stop sharing for 1 minute while I put my credit card information in, just in case that you would get a bonus from this webinar of getting my credit card information. So let me just stop sharing there. I'm gonna submit that and I'll come back to sharing so you all see what comes on. Okay, so I've submitted my credit card. It's asking for my address again. I'm gonna put that in. Okay. All right. Okay, now it is checking my address. Yes, confirm the address. Okay, something didn't go right. I'm not sure what, but we're going to try fixing this. And then if not, we will abandon ship and go to the next process, but we'll see. Okay. All right, so now I've done finish setup. I guess I've now put my credit card in some, whatever this other system is that you all use. Okay, now my card's set up to pay. All right, so now it's processing. Come back to share screen. Okay, so on screen it says, Farra, thanks for giving. A confirmational email we sent to farra@bigduck.com. So we're going to check what that is. Great. Now, another thing you could think about is thanks for giving. Some organizations will post a video that's like, we'd love you to learn more about what we're doing, or thanks for giving. Here's something else we'd love to learn more about. You take this survey. Like when somebody gives, you've got their attention. What happens beyond the thank you? Is there something else you want to invite them to do to connect to your mission, right? So that'd be a question. And again, Ali, from a technical perspective, this kind of embedded window thing is a little bit funky. I would want to kind of learn more about that. Okay, we're going to go back to my inbox and see if I got that thank you. And I did. Look, it comes from Ali. Hey, thanks, Ali. I'm going to go back to my promo tab just to see if anything came up from the e-newsletter. I don't think so, unless you recognize any of these names. So here's our thank you for giving. It's not spam, I promise, but I don't know why Google thinks it's spam. So that would be another question, you know, Allie, we'd want to ask. So thank you for your generous gift. This serves as a tax receipt. Great. So I think what, you know, my name, you know, Farra, because I have filled out my first name, even if this just said Dear Farra, right? Again, it warms up what the donor experiences by seeing you. And I would just, you know, I think in looking at this Allie on screen, I don't know that, you know, when was the last time you wrote this thank you message? Is this still current? Is this still what you're doing? Is there anything you've particularly done during COVID that maybe was a pivot that you should be highlighting? If ever you do that, you want to make sure, of course, again, that you go back and change that. But does this feel pretty current in terms of who you are and what you all do?
Yeah, it's
great.
It's generic enough.
Is this still your phone number and email address? That's always an important
Yes.
thing. That's the kind of thing you want to check. All right, so we're going to go back to, great. We're going to go back to your website. And then the next question is what's happening in social. So you've got Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, YouTube. And if I looked at all of these, are all of these relatively current? Do you have recent content in all of those channels?
Yes.
Great, because you know, I see organizations, for example, that will show Pinterest or Google Plus, or they just have legacy social media icons that they haven't updated. So that's another thing to check. But we're going to hop over to Facebook as kind of, again, the second or third most popular channel right now that we see in the world of donor communications. And here on Facebook, here's your site, here's your Facebook page. You got a pin post from March 5th about Amazon Smile. You've got a you know, relatively recent post from Monday. You know, one thing I'm seeing as I'm quickly scrolling is that you've got a handful of likes on posts, but I'm not seeing any comments. I'm not seeing any shares. So again, without going deep down the world of social media, I would ask, which are the most important communications channels? Pick a few to prioritize and look to how to spur conversation so that, you know, it is good that you've got some basic frequency, but what's happening there? Again, we want to see, can we give on, and it looks like we can. It looks like you've got Facebook set up. So again, I'm not going to give on Facebook right now, but you could. And again, what happens in that experience? What, you know, that's the kind of thing you want to see, but it looks like you've got that set up. You probably also have the ability for folks to do a fundraiser for you because you've got the Facebook donation plugged in. It also means that you could do fundraising on Instagram. Now, I don't know if you're on Instagram. I didn't see that little icon. Instagram, again, is another channel you might consider. And then just briefly, we'll go to, are you on Twitter at the, here, we'll just go back to your homepage. Would you say next to, after Facebook, between all your social media channels, what do you think is the most popular for your donors?
Probably at this point, it's Facebook.
Okay. Okay. So
it's still new, and my predecessor didn't use social media a lot, so it's still gaining followers.
Right. Okay. So we're gonna pause here. So let me just stop for a second. I'm curious. So that was just a quick, I don't know, was that like 10 minutes where I just kind of went through and quickly did that. Was there anything that was, Allie, surprising for you? And then I want to open up, see if there was anything surprising or interesting for anyone else.
Not really. I was aware of the potential accessibility issues. I don't like how the donation form is embedded within the page. There are certain things that was good, but I just appreciate seeing how you will look through it and like what sticks out to you and what is important to you.
Great. Anyone else have anything that
they,
yeah, you're welcome. Anyone else have anything that they saw or any suggestions they have for Allie or things that they saw in that process they want to share? You can unmute if you would like to.
Somebody asked about what emails we use for thank yous. We do use MailChimp.
Great. Any other thoughts folks have? Yeah, Liz.
I was just noticing that the mobile version is very different than the desktop version. And I was wondering, like, in terms of best practices, does that matter? Do you want them to be consistent? Do you want them to, I mean, obviously you want the mobile version to be responsive and to make sense for mobile users, but like, do you know, like thematically, it even looks a little bit different.
So I'm curious. So most organizations, when they have and it looks like your site's not responsive, I'm just trying to shrink the window. Let me show what I'm doing just to highlight that question. So my guess is, based on what you're saying, Liz, they have a separate mobile website. And that is also very circa, 5 to 10 years ago. Most organizations have a responsive website, which means the same website responds to the screen size. So one way you can see if your site's responsive is you drag it, like this is about the size of what it would look like if I was looking at the site on my phone. This site's not resizing to that window. That is really the best practice. So you want a website that is responsive and it's the same website. You're not creating two different websites. So the fact that Allie's organization has a mobile website that looks different and acts differently, again, is like a good Band-Aid, but the kind of thing you want to change when you can.
Oh, you got Pineapple Express.
Somebody is unmuted. I don't know if you mean to be unmuted, but
I am. I had a suggestion. When I got our Facebook had low followers as well. So what we've done is actually set up what are they called? You can set up within Facebook promotions. So like say you want to spend like $1 a day or $5 a day, and it actually reaches other audiences. So we've
lookalike audiences, that kind of thing.
Yeah, so we've actually built our followers by doing that. And it's brought more people to our Facebook. And actually last year when we did our online fundraiser when COVID hit, I did it all through Facebook.
That's great.
And so it was really successful. So that would be my suggestion for you, Allie, on your Facebook.
Yeah. And again, I think, Katie, I think it's a good point. I also think there are two things to keep in mind with Facebook. One is, and with any social media channel is, yeah, we need to get the numbers there following us if we're ever going to have conversation and community, but don't just focus on the likes and the followers. Really look at how you can build conversation. And you see that through when people are commenting or sharing what you're doing. That's really where those conversions to any kind of actions are going to take place. The other thing with Facebook fundraising is you don't always get the name of the person and the email address of the person who gives to a Facebook fundraiser. Facebook fundraisers can be a great and easy way to bring new donors in or help your donors raise money for your, take their birthday and make it a fundraiser for you, like someone had wrote in before. I don't know if that was Katie or someone else, but it can be hard because then if I give to, let's say Katie does a birthday fundraiser for Allie's organization, Allie may never get my name. And then we have a hard time. So there are things you can do when that happens, but Facebook fundraisers definitely do have have pros and cons about them. Yeah, Katie.
I just had one more thing.
Sure.
So when I meant fundraiser, I actually put on our whole fundraiser. And we didn't do it in the way where we asked money through the Facebook. We actually had a system where they set up, they gave us our email, they scheduled for our fundraiser, got onto our silent auction. And so we were able to capture all of that, but I had to do a lot more work. And I've noticed that, yeah, with the Facebook fundraising, we did not make a whole lot of money. So we really had to connect with our followers. So yeah, sorry.
Yeah.
That was one more
No,
thing
that's okay. And I also want to appreciate Kurt's comment that yes, responsiveness is about kind of shifting the screen, but it also means the developer is thinking about what does the site look like for a desktop, a tablet, and a phone. And it's basically like thinking about three websites in one. And oftentimes people are building for the smallest screen first and then thinking about the larger one. So yeah, and I did not mean to suggest it is an easy task by any means, for sure. It's definitely time consuming. I know we only have 10 more minutes. What I want to do is just quickly show you some other content I had in this deck. And then come back to seeing if there are any other questions or quick things people might want feedback on, because I don't think we're going to have time to do a full audit. But just to share what else is in here, which is, again, want to just open up if there are questions people have on these topics to chat those in. We can talk about that. And just some resources. If you want to get a copy of these slides or have questions that we don't have time to answer here, you can email me at farra@bigduck.com, F as in Frank, ARRA. And Big Duck does a lot of work around donor communications, fundraising campaigns, donor messaging, as well as branding. If you have any questions about any of that, certainly hit me up. We've got lots of content on these topics at bigduck.com/insights, blogs, podcasts, ebooks. So if you're looking for more resources, check that out. Or if you have ideas about things we should put content out about, always happy to have suggestions. I mentioned that ebook we have on capital campaigns, which talks about that inspire, inform, reassure framework. You can get that at bigduck.com/insights, or again, I'm happy to email me and I can send you all these links. I mentioned our podcast. In a few minutes, you will go back to a different session and I'll chat that link out. But yeah, I want to just, in our few minutes that we have left, kind of see any questions folks have, or things they want to, talk about in our last bit of time. We've got about 7 minutes. Invite you to use your voice, and yeah, I will chat out my email in the chat. Again, it's farra@bigduck.com. Any questions folks have? So I just see Liz has chatted, are blogs useful? Before I answer that, anybody want to answer that? I'm going to open it up to, we've got a room full of smart people here. I'm happy to share my opinion, but also happy to invite others in. Sharon says yes. I would basically say, who's your audience? Whenever there's a question about a communications channel, we go back to who are the people I'm trying to reach? What are they motivated by? What do they need? What are the behaviors we already see them take? And what are they looking for? So a blog can be useful. Blog can be useful for traffic, right? It can be useful for kind of keeping the website fresh, making sure your content is new, and search engine optimization, exactly as Monique chatted in. Make sure websites keep seeing you because you're posting there. It can be also give us good content to share on social media, get people talking, remind them you exist. I see blogs being, when blogs first came out, it was more about how do we get people to comment on our blogs? Do we let people comment on our blogs? Blogs aren't as commented on as much as they are these days, but they are still, heavily used, I think, for conversation. Even if people use their own site or they have a presence on Medium or something. Paula just chatted in, we use blogs for survivors to share their stories. That becomes a peer-to-peer support network. So I think it always comes back to who and why, and how is it doing, because it's not like what could be useful for one organization might not be useful for yours. You have to really run it through those filters. Thank you for asking that. And I think, Monique, you also had chatted in a comment earlier that I appreciated about, in those follow-ups, also thinking about social channels. So when someone says, thank you for giving, feel free to see what we're up to on, we keep our Facebook page really active. You can connect with us on Facebook at facebook.com/X. That's also a really great idea. Yeah, opening up. Anyone want to ask another question or share an insight by voice? Or chat in. You're welcome to unmute if you would like. Or you can chat in. You don't have to use your voice.
I did want to mention, there's this one resource that I think has been really helpful for us as we're trying to figure out what CRM we want to use in the meanwhile. And it's called Give Lively, and it's free for nonprofits, and it's for you can create events, you can create embed your donation form. It's pretty easy to use for nonprofits, and I think it's like that kind of starting up to just, I guess, make it more like up to date, and then from there, like just like we're currently doing, as we're looking for different CRMs that meets our needs, then we can transition over to like a paid version. But just wanted to throw out that resource
Great.
for nonprofits.
Thank you, Paula. I think that's givelively.org. I didn't have a chance to double check that, but I chatted that out. So if that's not the link, someone can definitely chat out if there is a different one. And Monique, thank you for resurfacing a question. What would you recommend for people improving engagement on Facebook pages, especially with organic reach being low? That's a great question, and definitely would love to hear if folks have done anything that's been successful. Again, I think this is sometimes some of the keys that I've seen work for that are where people kind of behind the scenes equip a group of folks to be their ambassadors, and maybe ask them to help spur conversation when they do post something, and maybe reshare things. And then sometimes people will get their organic reach up by investing in some low cost, boosting of a certain post that is really critical or is getting some traction. I think when you tag people love to be, share things when they've been tagged in it, when that makes sense. I think video, short videos are engaging, asking people questions and inviting them to respond to something, not again, just like posting the thing that we're doing. Yeah, social media toolkits, Paula, are great when you're doing things like that. But I'm curious, has anyone had anything maybe tying into also like Motivational Monday, Flashback Friday, like things that are happening to keep the content fresh? Is there anything else that's been working for people to improve engagement on Facebook? Anybody want to share anything that's worked for them recently?
I can share again.
Yeah.
So for us, primarily a lot of the people that we support is victims of homicide. So we'll provide ways to cope and grief on social media. And so that finds to be very relevant to our audience. And then also analyzing which posts are actually performing better so that we provide most of those type of contents on social media and then boost those posts as paid media. So that way we can get more supporters across those audiences.
That's great. Sharon.
I could share two quick things. One is if any of you are in the class of the Catalog for Philanthropy, they allow you to submit a blog, and then that's a great way to get your message out to other groups who did that, and it was really successful and helpful. And then we've just been toying around a little bit with Instagram, and we're trying to get a younger audience. And we did have an intern, we haven't kept it up, but she did this very cool, we called it In My Shoes, and we did a, what is it called?
A story?
No, a
A
takeover.
reel? Oh, a takeover, Instagram takeover. Yeah, that's
And then
great.
she did all these interactive polls and things with it. And my 15-year-old teenager told me it was cool and found it all on her own.
That's all you
which
need for affirmation.
I felt like I needed to share just for that alone.
Yeah. No, I mean, and Instagram is also, if you're set up on Facebook for fundraising, you can embed fundraising ask in Instagram stories. People can donate to you through that too. So, again, more people are migrating over to different forms. That's where, again, getting to know your audience. If you haven't done a survey in a while or done some phone interviews with donors, that could be really helpful. And Hannah just said, we do Mindful Mondays, and that's been a great way to connect. Well, I'm aware of the time, and unfortunately we are out of it. So I want to thank you all. I hope this was helpful and interesting way to spend your lunch or whatever time it is for you. I just chatted out again, my email address is farra@bigduck.com. And then I also chatted out the Zoom link, which is for the main session. So I think you are meant to go back to that. Well, thank you all and have a great rest of your time at the summit.
Thank you so much.
Sure, take care. Thanks again to Allie for volunteering.